talks about weddings, Chassidut, the Talmud Bavly, also we're closing in on Shmuz, which is also in Chassidut. The meaning is that going to the chuppah, he said first the Chassid and the Moshe Feinstein, the Aharon, go to deck the color. Our sister, you should multiply to thousands, tens of thousands. They call her our sister because the children always take after the brothers of the color, brothers of the mother. They say, we are your brothers now, we adopt you as a sister, take after us. These are, of course, the Roshei Then, going to the chuppah, first the chassan puts on a kippel. The kippel itself actually is a special beggar, a special garment that is worn at the time of death. First, when he dies, he's dressed with a kippel. This is his garment. It's a traveling garment. He traveled a very long distance with this garment. And this, of course, is a sign that the chassan, just like we have in Yom Kippur, a person is supposed to be reminded about death, which means Teshuva. So too, chassan going into new life, going into a simcha that is so great, the biggest simcha of his life. Remember, this is not going to have. He's not supposed to enjoy himself the rest of his life in the Gashmias. He remind himself that there is a goal, there is an end to this. The end is this kippel. The same kippel he puts on at the time of the Chassidut, he will have to wear eventually, 20 years later, a kiruv. So this is a reminder to the chassan. This is an important day, a very holy day. Under the chuppah, he should do Teshuva. It's customary to have his betters in the chuppah and Teshuva. Also, on this day, the chassan, the kala, are forgiven for all their chatoim, all their sins, in their entire life until that day. So it's much more powerful even than the day of Yom Kippur. Also, it's customary, because of the fact this is the biggest simcha, this is the primary simcha of a person's life. Like Allah is Yerushalmi, Arish Simchasi, the place in Yerushalmi above, the head of all my happy occasions. Therefore, on the head of the chassan, there are placed ashes. Reminding that Yerushalmi city, the Beis Hamikdash, is in ashes. And how can we rejoice when the Shekhinah is in Golus? The Shekhinah constantly cries over the destruction of its temple, its Beis Hamikdash. We place the ashes on the forehead of the chassan with the bracha that this ashes in Hebrew is Efer. This Efer should be turned around, the letters turn around to Pe'er. Pe'er means the beauty. The Pe'er stands for the beauty of the world. Then it also says the greatest beauty in the world is the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash's beauty comes from the beauty of the tzadik emes. Tzadik gives to the Beis Hamikdash this beauty. Special Torah speaks about this. This is the reason for placing the ashes on the forehead of the chassan. And then, of course, the chassan then receives the brachas too. The bracha that are given to the chassan and kala is that the zivik should be eli yofer. Zivik should be a successful one. They should have a life of simcha and success. Beruchnis and bigashmis. One more item: they going to the chuppah. The chassan is led to the chuppah by his close friends. In this case, nowadays it's his parents. The kala is led by her parents to the chuppah. The reason is that we find that when Adam and Isha had to go to marry Chava, that was the first wedding that took place. And there the Kodesh says that the Shishmidim, the close friends, the associates who took part in that wedding, that was a very, very big wedding then. All the heavenly malachim took part in it. There was a lot of dancing, a lot of rejoicing in that wedding. But the kala was led to Adam and Isha by the kala's one who brought her into the world. Kaviyachal Hashem himself brought chavar to Adam. This is very good. It says, "Hidden the words of posek in front of you. The Yeha El Adam." But Shem brought her. What it means, he led her up the aisle to the chuppah for the wedding ceremony. Then, as we said, the chassid standing in the center as the kala walk around him with the women who lead her 7 times, corresponding to the 7 svidas, the heavenly svidas. And then the kala stands at the right of the chassid with the brachos adonai, which is never to many simchas, the simcha of the air tachas efer. See with our eyes the pale beauty of the Sritish rising up again out of its ashes, the dias, setting later for it. Since today is Erev Yontif, today is Erev Yontif and today is Thursday. Yontif is Friday and Shabbos. We have an important halacha that's due today. That we did not tell you. The din of Erev Tavshil. This means that we have the halacha, you're not allowed to cook, prepare from one day Yontif to the second day. You're not allowed to cook on the first day Yontif for the sake of the second day. You must cook on the second day itself. There's no way you're allowed to prepare one for the other. Certain exceptions, not exceptions, but certain tricks that can be used, but generally the din is you cannot prepare one day for the next because one day, one of the two is definitely a weekday. One is Kurdish, one is a weekday. That shows only one day. You do that of something, that which is the right one. You cannot prepare from Yontif to the weekday. Now, if Yontif comes out on Friday and Shabbos, there's another halacha. You cannot prepare from Yontif to Shabbos. Although there would seem that it should be allowed, merely because Shabbos is much holier than Yontif is. You're allowed to prepare from something less holy to something much more holy. Why do we forbid cooking and baking from Friday to Shabbos and Yontif to Shabbos? The reason is that Chachamim said if we would allow a person to cook and bake Yontif to Shabbos, he would completely ignore the Yontif and make a weekday out of it, because he only have to be preparing the Shabbos. So Yontif will become buckled. Therefore, he said, for that reason, you're not allowed to prepare Friday to Shabbos at all. Yontif to Shabbos. No, it's a higher kedusha. Unless, when is he allowed? Erev Tavshilin, Erev Yontif. For instance, if Yontif is Friday and Shabbos, it makes Erev Tavshilin on Thursday. If Yontif 2 days is Thursday and Friday, it makes Erev Tavshilin on Wednesday. This Erev Tavshilin means he prepares 2 items. One is a cooked item, and one is a baked item. And this is done, prepared on Erev Yontif, for instance, today on Thursday. And this means that we are not really cooking or baking entirely on Friday, Yontif to Shabbos. We're starting today. Today is a weekday. We're starting today. As long as we start today, just to finish off on Erev Shabbos and Yontif, that is allowed. So the Erev Tavshilin permits a person to cook or bake on Yontif, which comes out Erev Shabbos. The Erev Tavshilin must be 1 cooked item and 1 baked item, which means a loaf of bread, a challah that is, or preferably a matzah, which matzah doesn't get spoiled, stays overnight or a few days, a matzah, which is a baked item, and a piece of fish, a cooked piece of fish, or according to the number, you may use a boiled egg, a hard-boiled egg. So this is what's customary to use, a matzah plus either a piece of cooked fish or a hard-boiled egg, but these are saved. And then, to show it just has been prepared for the sake of Shabbos, this must be eaten on a Shabbos afternoon. Usually it is a Shabbos morning meal or for the Shabbos Shavashudas, one of the two. But on Shabbos itself it's eaten to show that it wasn't meant as a joke, it was meant seriously. And this is what permits the cooking or baking of Yontif to Shabbos. We should observe it to be Menachem, prepare ourselves to Kabbalah Yontif Kedush, especially see the Matan Torah, and to see the Matan Torah, which is the Chassidut in heaven, to the Hashem of the Jews, with the Beis HaMikdash being rebuilt from the Sheikh Rahim. We start off as Kriya Shema and Tfilas Marav. Tfilas Marav at night. It's mindful Kriya Shema and Tfilas Marav. The actual real Zman is when the night has really begun, which is when there are 3 stars, 3 small stars shining in the sky, which is what the time accepted as 72 minutes after Shkia, after sundown. Best is known when a person knows, there's no doubt in his mind whatsoever that that's night for all purposes. Especially Shabbos things. Know something about Shabbos, Taste of Shabbos. Of course, if that's Taste of Shabbos, Taste means an additional amount taken off from Sunday for the sake of Shabbos. So why do you have to wait 72 minutes for Kriyat Shema during the week? Why say that might have during the week? The real time, the absolute time when you're positive is 72 minutes. The answer is, you're right. The answer is that you can wait 71 minutes and 59 seconds. So you're still sure. If it's Pesach Shabbos, it could be a second also. But again, for all purposes, to be certain, 72 minutes after sundown, you know that it's nightfall, and that's the Zman. You can't mitzvah the shloms. The daven matter before that Zman, it's like before that 3 stars are out, you can see 3 stars. There is a big kasha brought in the Nachman. The person sees 3 stars, they say that 3 small stars, because the big stars are not considered stars. Those stars are in the daytime too. You must really have, as it says, that have 6 stars in the sky. That they have 2 shapes of stars, 2 sizes. But the others, 3 medium stars are also okay. How can you tell this medium? You can't hardly tell the difference. So therefore you should have small ones. If you have 2 sizes in the sky, 2 sets of 3, one larger and one smaller, you know that these smaller ones are, at least at worst, it's medium. So if you have the 3 medium in the sky, or 3 small ones, that means, for this sake, you have 3 small ones, and it's not yet 72 minutes. It's 60 minutes. It's 52 minutes. What's it do then? Who said that it's 72 minutes? What do you find in the Gemara? Ever mentioned 72 minutes? Not exactly, because you do find the Gemara 72 minutes. But you do find many halachas. Dalet Milah. But as far as this halacha is concerned, as far as Kriyat Shema, Shalabas, as far as Tfilas Magid, as far as nightfall, just as you have to have Giluk Yechav, 3 stars. You have Giluk Yechav, so why do you have to have 72 minutes too? Very hard kasha. Very hard to get done. So if it's kasha, it's a kasha that's very difficult to answer. Definitely, it's a limit. The answer for Shabbos is that if you can't answer the kasha, let's say you can't answer this kasha. So you can't answer, you're stuck with the kasha. How come you're keeping Shabbos till 72 minutes after? The answer is that when I come to the heavenly court, I'm going to be charged with the crime. I kept Shabbos for 72 minutes instead of 60 minutes. I'm going to get paid for that crime. How am I going to get paid there? Chocolate bars, ice cream, Canadian food, that kind of food. So that kind of a charge, kind of a crime, the person could take. It's not charging for it like that. Well, that cash is not so hard to take, but we can live with that cash. You can live forever with that cash. The only thing is during the week, you make your more, versus 3 stars, if you make it to like Nishma, you consider it this month. Many halachas, of course, where this applies. You have counting dinner and so on. Anyway, let's put it in the proper perspective without going to these kashas. Because kashas lead to more kashas. So very simply, we call it Seisek Echavim. The stars come out. Call it Seisek Echavim. With the clock, the time, you're in doubt, you know that 72 minutes, which is the time it takes to walk 4 miles. You know, it says 18-minute mile. 72 minutes, which is also lower. Then you have Chesed, then you have your 72. So then you have Chassidut rising, Torah, at night. Night is the Laila is Dinan, 72 minutes. Without that too, leave the evil right aside. So you want to have Manav right, done properly, it's 72. It's tzadik achov. Now, if a person, let's say a person davens with $1 million. $1 million wants to have a daven right. Why do you daven $1 million? $1 million doesn't want to have daven right. Sure, $1 million is in a hurry. You have a choice then to daven with $1 million. Daven with $1 million before tzadik achov. Let's say about Shkia, an hour early. Full hour early before this time. Just a minute after the Shkia, 2 minutes after the Shkia. Or to wait till 72 minutes and daven b'yechidus by yourself. Harvest, Tzitzavas Kasman, or early, not with this one, with a good. You have the same problem as we had before. What I said, we safely say that better to daven with $1 million earlier, even then later daven. Always, the machliya should be tefillah and tzibur so great. That's the one thing that goes through everything. All the barriers in heaven is broken through. Even if the $1 million is a very weak kind of $1 million, it's such religious people, it's not such this or that. Shemaim, they do not examine, they're not waiting to see what you have in your pockets, to see what kind of purse you have, look at your records. They don't look for they don't check the passports if it comes with $1 million. So it comes by itself, the border guard says, let's check what's your record, what's the files, what did you do yesterday, what did you do last week, last year, this person wants his tefillah to go to do. Rip up the tefillah, to show him, and throw him out. That's it, it's the tefillah, the yochel. No examination at all. This is very punishing. And the entire thing goes, Hein, Kel, Kabed, Lo Yumos, Hashem does not reject a tefillah on a tzibur. Therefore, though admittedly there are some days, these are very few days. Such very, very few days say this. Those who do say it, it's better to daven. It's good. In this case, it's definitely our mitigators. What should be done is a person should better daven tefillah and tzibur earlier than his man for Manav, or later than his man for Mincha, rather than daven himself. But let's say you came to shul, missed tefillah and tzibur an hour before tzadik achov, then he's not allowed to daven by himself. The yechidus you cannot daven without his man alone. You get $1 million. $1 million has the right to go before this man because $1 million is so big, they're more powerful than this man. They're above the concept of time. But Yochid alone, you can't go before this man. You have to watch this man. You're davening without $1 million. Manav must be at the proper time, which is an hour and 12 minutes after sundown. This, of course, applies to Manav and the Kriya Shema of Manav. It's the mitzvah of the Reisa. The Shach B'chal T'mecha, Kriya Shema is to line up at night in the morning. Now, the question is, sundown, this man, up to sundown, the proper Zman for Mincha, and then it starts, we're going towards nightfall. There are days, look, there are days who say, more brings even days that say that you see anything in shul, that it's after Shkia, after sundown, they daven Mincha pretty much later, after the sun. Of course, when it's early, it's like it's oven, it's really dark, the daven Mincha then, even at tzibur, even the minute cannot change night to day. They haven't got that power. To say that night is day, not that great. It's the borderline, close to it, then they can go beyond the limit of the law. Well, let's say that it's after Shkia, after sundown. The minute daven Mincha late, you can still join after Shkia or the first. The Yechidus couldn't get home in time, you daven Mincha after Shkia too. Which means that after Shkia can even be time for Mincha, still day. So after the Shkia is not it's a question whether it's good yet, but it's neither person can daven it. What about before the Shkia? Before the Shkia, the real is not good. Not before the Shkia, not it. So the minute is the shul, and sundown, not the 16 hours. Minyan davened Mincha at 5:30. They finished at 5:45. They don't know it until 6 o'clock. They're all going to go home. So they missed out on having Minyan. They said let's daven Ma'ariv also. Together, Mincha not together, so daven Ma'ariv at 5:45. 5:45 is Ma'ariv. The sun is still shining very brightly on top of the sky. This is 15 minutes before the beginning of sundown. You're allowed to daven Ma'ariv at that time. This is, of course, you cannot, but because you have a Minyan, then you're allowed. The Minyan is so great, you can even daven Ma'ariv before sundown, when it's still day. Except that Plaga Mincha means an hour and a quarter before sundown. At that time, it's really day. And then, if a person davens Ma'ariv before Plaga Mincha, before an hour and a quarter before sundown, the Ma'ariv is completely in vain. It's the same as a person who lights candles, Talmud Shabbos, an hour and a quarter before they apply before an hour and a quarter. An hour and 20 minutes before, hasn't taken the Shabbos at all. And Yaakov on the candles are in vain too. The thing is, daylight, day, all purpose. So, but if it's after Plaga Mincha, so it's an hour before sundown, then you want to daven Ma'ariv, then they can do it. Where do you find that done? Hopefully, summertime. Summertime, people want to travel Shabbos early, Friday night. They don't want to come home at 8 o'clock at night, so they decide to daven Mincha and Ma'ariv, let's say at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, while it's still very bright, it's way before sundown. There's a lot to do that. The Minyan, especially during the week, to do it, it's not to advise. Well, it's not right to maybe Shana Eaton, change night to night. But Kabbalah Shabbos earlier, Kabbalah Shabbos, when Kabbalah Shabbos doesn't maybe done with Achila, but the Minyan could daven Ma'ariv Kabbalah Shabbos, Yishma, Ma'ariv, and B'yetze completely. Although it's a lot of things on Shabbos, except that one item is a Kriya Shema, before sundown, before there's no, you're not Yetze. Yetze, the Kriya Shema is the Bracha, so Ma'ariv. Mitzvah Kriya Shema is over that you're not Yetze, you have to say it over again later when it gets dark. Well, if you said it just around the Shkia time, after the Shkia, you may not Yetze that Kriya Shema either exactly, because it's still before real dark. But then you have in mind, like you go to bed, night, Kriya Shema Mita, you say Kriya Shema, they call it 3 Pashas till MS. You always have in mind, you say Shema Mita, I wasn't Yetze, not at the right time, just cover it. And if you daven very early, like 7 o'clock in the summertime, then when it comes to, let's say, 9:30, proper time for Kriya Shema, then you must stop eating for a second, for a minute, say Kriya Shema, make up for the Kriya Shema, and then you relinquish from getting before going to bed. This is the Seder of the Erev. Seder of the Erev is a person, the Gemara says, Brachos, those who have learned, Bavly, Brachos, that the derech of a person is to come home at night. First thing is to see that he's daven Ma'ariv. Carefully, he says Kriya Shema, he's daven Ma'ariv. Then he goes to eat. The person should not start eating before Ma'ariv. Always make sure that your meal should come after Ma'ariv. Unless you have a Minyan there waiting, Shia with a Minyan of Ma'ariv, there's no possibility of missing Ma'ariv. You're not going to forget, because you have a whole Minyan of Ma'ariv to do with a Shia Ma'ariv, then it's missing the thing before. Otherwise, the person should be certain to be careful not to eat before Ma'ariv. This is the good way to deal at night, so you're sure of not forgetting to daven Chas v'Shalom. This is the Seder Halayla. We should be able to couple the mitzvahs of Tfilas Shema. Again, the Shema. Shema is Shachas Mincha and Arvis. Shleimus. The Hashem. Nimas, the Avodah Halev. The Avodah Tfilah. And the Susa of our Avodah, which is up to the Avodah of this Mikdash and Avodah of this Amen. First, Tfilas Ma'ariv. Rabbi Ma'ariv consists of 2 parts. First, you have the Kriya Shema, Brachos Kriya Shema, the Kriya Shema. Then you have the Shemona Esrei. In this respect, Ma'ariv is a little different than Shachos. The Shachos, you cannot separate the 2. You must daven, for example, Baruch Shema Yishtabach straight through to Shemona Esrei, and then Shemona Esrei, you cannot break it up. Ma'ariv, there are 2 separate halachas. There is Kriya Shema, and the Shemona Esrei Tfilas Ma'ariv. So that in case a person comes to shul, he finds that the minyan has started davening already. He gets there, the minyan is just about to start Shemona Esrei. He's allowed to start Shemona Esrei with them, with the minyan. That's called Tefillah B'Tzibur. Tefillah means Shemona Esrei always. Tefillah B'Tzibur. And after Shemona Esrei, to sit down and to say the part that he left out. The whole bracha is of Kriyat Shema, not Kriyat Shema itself. This, of course, is if the Tzibur daven late, after Tzesek HaChav. But if he came to shul and they were davening earlier, before Tzesek HaChav, they daven Shemona Esrei with them. He cannot sit down and daven Ma'ariv until the Zaman comes. When time comes, he could daven Ma'ariv by himself. He could daven Kishma by himself, which means it has to be this man. And at the end of the Ma'ariv, Tfilas Ma'ariv, Et Ashkimenu, in the B'chas Kishma you have, after the B'chas Ashkimenu, the Shema Yisrael, you have the paragraph, B'chas Shem L'Yelam, Amen V'Yamen. This tefillah corresponds to the Shemona Esrei. The number of times it says Hashem name corresponds to the brachas between Shemona Esrei. This was made especially. The second is tefillah corresponds to Shemona Esrei. And this, of course, was only in Chutz La'aretz, not in Eretz Yisrael. So, the importance of saying this tefillah is such that since it stands to Shemona Esrei, a person cannot stand while saying it. He cannot stand facing this way, because then it looked like he's Yetzel in Shemona Esrei. It should be said sitting, or at least standing facing the opposite direction to show he's not saying Shemona Esrei. Best not to say standing. So as far as saying it itself, it's interesting to note, this is a side observation. The person who is saying two opposite factions, both very holy with kindness, but different and other completely. Sephardim and Ashkenazim. You have the Sephardim, let's take the greatest, one of the greatest, the Arizal, the Kodesh, the Arizal, the Sephard Zohar. The other hand, you have the Ashkenazim, the greatest, Baal Shema Kodesh. Shemte was the, let's say, the head, one of the heads of this Ashkenazim of all time. And yet, you see that it's possible that a person should be both. Because the Baal Shemte was the kiruv of the Arizal. They have two opposites, and all of them not mix. Not only halacha, as far as many halachas are concerned, but in Nusach, they say that that's tefillah. Say that tefillah, two different ischayos of tefillah. Here you can have one to be both, to adopt both say that tefillah. One who knows. Ones who know. These all knew they said that tefillah, all these cities, both the tefillah. He wrote the Sefer HaKavanos on only Kabbalah secrets of tefillah. Hashem said, David, Hashem was the Baal Tefillah. The Baal Tefillah. Let's take this case, for instance. Arizal did not say this last paragraph. Sephardim did not say it. And Malchus and so they don't say it. Hashem, it says, very much dynamic, very much so stressed the saying in this last paragraph. So, we see here, those who don't know, of course, it's nothing. It's God, the Ashkenazim is the difference. But those who know this is actually the same Gilgal, and those who recognize the own Neshama well, but yet we find it the same case, same item. Apparently, one came to the person in general, let's say not such categories, the person in general would come back time and time again to fulfill every mitzvah. You have a mitzvah here, say Baruch Shem. If you have a mitzvah, you don't say that's Yisrael. A person could come back twice to fulfill the positive and the negative mitzvah. This is a possibility. Anyway, Amesa, So I think that most of us have one gil will fulfill both. It's part of our lives. We said it. And then we sort of change to the Menachem Mendel Schneerson, partially do. Item very delicate because we said Hashem is very tactic on saying it. So nobody would dare to say you don't say it, except that, as I said, we have the backing, we have to rely on the fact that our majority is an Eretz today. Majority Breslov an Eretz. So we simply follow the Aharon. We don't have a permit to do it, plus the fact that we said it's Fadim among us also constitute part of the majority. Therefore, our custom more recently was to adopt the David Huggin. Some of them are excellent because you have, for instance, the saying of Baruch Hu after the Shachas and after Marav, which is an extraordinary meaning. The person comes late for davening, Chas Hashem, to go along without Baruch Hu, R Nosson. This saves a person from late for davening. Even those that come late and should be recommended, still we have pretty consideration to help them. So this is as far as we go. I think that we should be zecher to conduct ourselves according to the Das Vadin, follow the true and hugim of all the Menachem Mendel with the Emes, with the Skashna, and with the Shlema. That's what we should see in the Yeskel. Speaking about the night, the end of the day, the person finishes his day's work, learning, going to bed, to sleep. There are some exceptional cases who do not waste the nights on sleep. We call them the golden nights, where they spend the nights up. They sleep during the early part of the evening, during the day, a few hours, but the precious hours of the night, when everything is so quiet, so still, and there is a contact with heaven, they spend those hours on learning, davening. It's Chidi Balayla, Menel says, Hanea Balayla, when it's up at night, because it's Menedus. There are some who spend the nights B'Kedusha B'Tara. But the average person, it's not every person gives up to that. Every person has to sleep to renew, to refresh himself, refresh his strength. So the time allotted for sleep, how much time is necessary for a person to sleep to be fresh again? Every person has a different nature. There are some people who can get along with 2 or 3 hours a night, and there are some, if they sleep all day and all night, they'll still be tired. However, it is definitely a fact that too much sleep, Arizal says, definitely as destructive, as harmful as too little sleep. In fact, in some cases, even more so. It brings up Hashanim, it brings up vapors to the brain, to the mind, that dull the mind and do harm to a person's perception, understanding, and learning. A person should see to it that he should not have too little sleep, so he can be refreshed, and not too much sleep. Proper amount of sleep, there are different opinions. Some say that Rambam says that it's 8 hours. Posek Oz Yeruach, Oz Ishon, Oz Yeruach Li. Oz Ishon, if I sleep Oz, Aleph Zayin, a total of 8, Oz Yeruach Li, I'll be rested. Other places can say that 6 hours is much better than 8. 8 is too much, 8 is for children. The person gets older, 6 hours is definitely enough. The person should not go beyond that amount. And then there are some who say that 4 hours is the proper amount, because the same posek teaches us Oz Ishon, if I sleep Oz 8 hours, Oz Yeruach, then it'll be rest, Li. Li is Lamed Yud, which is 40. Sleep 8, I'll have 40 hours of rest, which means that in 48 hours, 8 hours is enough. 8 out of 48. 8 hours of sleep, 40 hours of staying awake, 48 hours. Every 24 hours, 4 hours. The person should test himself, see to it that if he should not sleep too much, and when he does not sleep, he should spend the time properly. Above all, the Gemara says, the Zayin Kodesh says that a person before going to bed should take an account. When you close a store, a business, you check over the books, see how the books balance, see whether there was profit or chassidut or otherwise. The person at night should spend time a few minutes. Besides the explaining a few minutes time, but honestly, do not keep two sets of books. Keep one set of honest books. Check these books at night and say, let's see now, I was up how many hours today since this morning? I was up 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours. How were those 20 hours spent? Did I spend those hours Kedusha? Did I spend enough of those hours for the sake of my neshama? Or all for the sake of the guf? One thing. Secondly, what did I do wrong today? Did I commit sins today that I shouldn't have? That I should regret? And if a person checks it over and finds he did wrong, he should say vidui. Say, Hashem, I confess. Anything is confession, vidui. Not to be obstinate about it. Recognize the fact he committed a sin and confess, because Menachem tells us that a person confesses, and then the Satan connects them to Hashem and say, this person committed a sin. Hashem says, I know that already. You told me something new. This one I was informed already, so you're out. Too late. The person confesses before Hashem, the Satan cannot come and report anymore. The first thing is vidui. True confession means I confess, I regret, and above all tshuva, which means I will not repeat this sin again. The person does that, he is called, as the Zohar says, Modei de Chushbana. Alei HaCheshbon. The Gemara says in Rosenfeld, Al Keyemru HaMishlem Bayu Cheshbon. Those who are wishlem, powerful, rule, real, true rulers, a powerful ruler. What is a powerful ruler? One who rules over himself. He's able to rule over his own self, over his own Yitzhahara. These powerful rulers say, Bayu Cheshbon, let's go take an accounting, see what we're up to, how we're making out. A person, before going to bed at night, should do two things. Confess and do tshuva. Second would be Mispal to Hashem, let night tomorrow be a better day than today. It should serve you better. And then a person should never go to bed without first saying a sentence which is sometimes difficult to say. But if at the same time you say to Hashem, Hashem, I committed sins, I rebelled against you. Hashem, you are greater than I am. You are greater than I am, and yet I went against your word. Now, I may be greater than others, whether it's gaiva or whether it's truth, but those who went against me, shall I hold it against them? And shall they be punished on my behalf? Or shall I forgive them? First, Hashem, I want you to forgive me. I want to show that I have the same midah of forgiveness. Each time a person should say, there are people who sinned against me, they insulted me, they hurt me, they harmed me in different manners. I hereby forgive all those who hurt me. Shorei, like Modei, Lamad, Mitzara. This the Gemara says is a true cheshbon at night. One who does that, in turn, he is forgiven by Hashem. It must be a very serious, true forgiveness. You know, a person says at night, very serious, I hereby forgive every person who harmed me. Next day he goes out to take revenge from the person who harmed to show that the statement wasn't too honest. It must be a definite, honest statement in saying before Hashem. And then he says, the Yerushalmi, special tefillah that is said, the last posek, second that is said at the end, and also from a health viewpoint, as it says in the dinner of health. Somehow there is a hidden meaning in these words. Menachem says, makes a statement about this, and something we don't understand there's a myth. If a person goes to bed at night, he should always begin by lying on the left side. This helps the food to become digested well, because the liver on the right side, the liver is heavy. Liver will press down on the stomach, which will heat up the stomach and help it to the digestive process. And then, after a while, turn over the right side so that the stomach should be allowed to empty out. And this go into the intestines. And this helps the person's digestive system to work properly. However, a person should not roll from side to side and back. He should lay there, lay still, and don't make any trouble at night. Behave properly. Above all else, person should know that serve Hashem with everything you do. That means in the daytime, when you're davening, when you work, and at night, when you go to sleep, there should also be a deed of serving Hashem. My night of sleep should be the Avodas Hashem. I'm sleeping because I want to have more spirit to be able to come back and serve Hashem. You should be zeichet to be the Emes of Hashem, serve Hashem all in days, the minutes and seconds of our lives, with truest kashrus to Rabbeinu Kodesh, Arizal, we should be zeichet to see when our Zachzedei Ninu, coming of Mashiach and Kenu, the Beis Hamikdash, Amen.